Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. I'm Tundu Abiola.
And I'm Biola Alabi.
The senator representing Osun West Senatorial District in the National Assembly, DELE Adeleke, is still basking in the euphoria of his victory at the State Governorship Election Tribunal. The All Progressives Congress, whose candidate in the election, Boyega Oyetola, had earlier been sworn in as governor, has gone to the Court of Appeal to contest the tribunal judgment. To look at this judgment and matters arising from it, we are now joined here in Lagos by DELE Adeleke, a political strategist and empirical data analyst who was a star witness in the legal proceedings that led to this landmark judgment, and from Abuja Arise Studios, Lere Olayinka, a journalist and special assistant to former Ekiti State Governor Ayo Fayose on public communications and new media. Gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
So, DELE, we'll start with you. As a star witness in this case, can you tell us, the star witness, can you just give us an overview of the tribunal proceedings and your assessment? Was it allowed to take its natural course? Was it given a free and fair hearing?
The tribunal process was interrupted at some point in time. We started out at the Osogbo Tribunal Court, and after, just before the hearing proper started, we had two applications to the tribunal, and then the next thing, opposition started shouting. The next thing we heard, without giving any reasons, the tribunal was relocated to Abuja. A new panel was set up without any reason, and of course, naturally, that would throw up a whole lot of suspicion. And our people, we were quite shocked and at the same time apprehensive, you know, what's going on? Hey, so these guys are using the power that be, they're trying to oppress us. It's bad enough that they did what they did for the election. Now, you know, they kind of hijacked. So all sorts of things were going on. But when we got to Abuja and the tribunal, the second panel started out, in the midst of all the apprehension, the level of professionalism that we saw, you know, demonstrated by the honorable justices, began to, you know, calm our frayed nerves. You know, we just had faith, because that was our only hope anyway. I mean, we had no choice but to go to the tribunal. So we had faith, and then we went on through it, and we believe all parties got fair hearing. We believe all parties were given the opportunity to prove their case, call the witnesses. I mean, we called 84 witnesses. Our team tendered 1,014 pieces of exhibit. You know, so we were given the chance to prove our case, and no wonder the outcome that we had, compared to the other side that couldn't call witnesses. They kept adjourning, and then total, from first respondent to the third respondent, together they called 8 witnesses. Now, 8 witnesses, you know the justice scale. You call 8 witnesses, I have 84. You know, I tendered 1,014 exhibits. You tendered 200 and something. You don't, I mean, INEC, for instance, was the first respondent, and they didn't even call a single witness. They didn't defend all the charades that they did. You know, so the outcome of the judgment, I mean, the ruling that we got, could not have been any other way, because it was clear to the blind that, I mean, it was clear cheating.
Still, we're going to stay with you, DELE, and you were a witness. Can you tell us for which parties and what aspects of the case did you actually come in to testify on? And I know viewers at home are watching, and they saw your last name, Adeleke, and can you tell us if you have any relationship to the senator as well? Yeah,
I'm related to the senator, but that's by the way.
It's neither here nor there. It's just good for the viewers to know. It's in transparency.
I'm a privileged member of the Adeleke dynasty. I make no apologies for that. The truth of the matter is that the facts speak for themselves. During the case, I was called like the star witness, like the principal witness, because I happened to be the state collation officer for the PDP.
Okay.
Okay, I managed the situation room, managed the election operations. So naturally, all the results that came from all the polling units, all the 3,010 polling units and 755 voting points came to me. So I had I was in a unique position to collate, put all these results together. And if you can cast your mind back to that day, in particular, the 23rd of September, you would see that I was engaging them on various errors and anomalies in the results they were calculating and they were collating. And, you know, I was challenging them. And the returning officer, Professor Fuakwe, for whatever reason, insisted that we should go to the next level. So
I just want to take our viewers back to that day because it has been a while. There's been so many other elections that have happened, and I know a lot of our... Tell us a little bit about the atmosphere that day and what you remember.
Clearly, results were being doctored, and we've been able to prove that also at the tribunal. We kept pointing out clear addition errors, clear adjustments in figures, and the returning officer wouldn't have it. You know, he gave us a chance on one. You know, had a few break, and then we wouldn't allow for us to, you know, drill down and prove where the error point was. Now, you can imagine how distraught we were. These are professors. How can professors not be able to carry out simple additions? I mean, simple 1 + 1 is 2. You know, and so that naturally created a whole lot of, I mean, this is entirely contrived. This was determined, you know, the outcome was predetermined, and they needed to achieve that outcome from the beginning. The truth is, to law, September 22nd, at the end of that election, Senator DELE Adeleke had met all requirements of the law. Section 179 subsection 2 makes it very clear the conditions you need to meet for you to be appointed governor or president, and he met those requirements all. You know, so to suddenly conjure up, you cancel 7 units, no reasons given, you've cancelled. You don't tender an EC40G form that is mandatory for filling out where elections are cancelled or where elections did not hold. And then you just come on and say, okay, because of these 7 units, 7 out of 3,010 polling units plus 755 voting points. You cancel 7 units, and then you say because of 7 over 3,010, therefore the election is inconclusive. It's clear it was arranged. And why were they cancelled? 3 out of the 7 polling units, opposition party or APC thugs went and snatched ballot boxes. 3. 1, they had manual accreditation. The other one, they said the election did not hold, but the election really held. And we have the result to show that the election held. You know, so it was clear that they were just basically, you know, looking for any window that they can not declare Senator Ademola and then give them a second chance, a second bite at the pie, like they say. And of course, they use all the instrumentality of force and oppress the people. We saw all the charade that happened on the 27th. Thugs invading, beating people up everywhere. The people of Orolu that had 3 polling units that were affected were completely disenfranchised. A lot of them couldn't vote. There are videos of them all over.
So, now I'm going to go to Abuja and speak to Lere. Lere, can you give us an overview of the proceedings of the tribunal as a close observer, seeing as Dele has just said, Osun 2, as it's now known, has been declared an illegality?
Well, let me say clearly that I was not at the tribunal in Osun, but I followed the election, before the election, after the election, and all that. And I can say categorically that the election in the Ekiti State and Osun, those elections were manifestly rigged. Those who rigged the election today they are there. And the reason they rigged those elections was because of what they termed bandwagon effect on the presidential election. And that was why they could not, figures figures were not able to add up. In Osun, for instance, I was aware of PDP votes in Ayedade local government suddenly reducing from 10,836 to 9,836. 1,000 votes just went off PDP votes. And I'm also aware of the arrest of an INEC official by name Mutiu Kolawole, who was arrested for mutilating result of Ayedade local government. I'm aware of the fact that the rerun in Osun is now being used as yardstick. When Kano State election was declared inconclusive, what Nigerians were saying was that Osun template was going to be used. So that template in Osun has now become a kind of a reference point for rerun in supplementary election. And today, that's why I said I was never surprised when the verdict came. But I am more surprised that one of the judges gave minority judgment. I went through the minority judgment and I've asked myself, what is this country turning to? Like the one in Ekiti, the same thing that happened in Ekiti almost happened in Osun. Mutilation of result, alteration of result, and result from INEC from E8A, that is the original copy, different from the pink copies. In most polling units, those things, the errors were proved, documents were tendered at the Ekiti and Osun Tribunal. We saw the tribunal judgment giving this kind of judgment in Osun and giving a different kind of judgment on Ekiti. And I look at the minority judgment in Osun almost the same as the judgment of Ekiti. And I ask myself, what are we turning this country to? The truth of the matter is that elections in Osun and Ekiti were brazenly rigged. Even a 2 or 3 year old child would tell us that my daughter once asked me, Daddy, is this how elections should be held in countries all over? So I was not surprised that the verdict came. I am more surprised at the minority judgment, because that election in Osun, I just pointed out Ayedade local government, and I've asked myself, what has happened to that INEC official that was arrested for tearing the vote, the result sheet of Ayedade local government, for reducing the vote of PDP from 10,836 to 9,836. 1,000 votes just went, and I'm aware that the collation officer of PDP, by Mr. DELE Adeleke, raised that at the collation center. I'm aware of the response of the INEC official, the returning officer. Oh, let us continue. Let us continue. We kept continuing. And that was what led us to where we are today, because we kept continuing. And I have asked myself, if that 1,000 votes had not been removed, there wouldn't have been any need for the renewed election that was held, that was massively rigged, that in which PDP agents were sent away from polling units, in which people coming in Orolu, for instance, people coming to vote for PDP were so identified and were not allowed to get to the polling unit. That same template was used in Kano, and that same template I'm very sorry to say this, my governor in Ekiti says has come to be so identified with that level of template. We now see APC members in my state say wherever Dr. Kaode Fayemi is involved, victory is assured for them. He was the proponent of that Osun rerun template, and I'm also aware that he was part of the Kano rerun election where the same template was used. And I've asked myself, are we going to continue to conduct election like this? We are happy that Tribunal gave judgment on Osun. We are approaching the Supreme Court on Ekiti. We are looking up to the judiciary to save this country, to save our democracy, and we are hopeful that judiciary will save this country and save our democracy. But
ask you a question, Lere, based on your quite strong objection to the dissenting judgment of the chairman of the tribunal, Justice Sirajo. What do you make of the point that he made? He did say he does not feel that Senator Adeleke proved his case. But he also said, he cited Section 140 of the Electoral Act and said that there was no right given to the tribunal to declare Senator Adeleke the winner, that all the tribunal ought to have done is to declare a fresh election. What is your view on that?
How do you declare a fresh election where you have somebody clearly leading in an election? How do you see, we have issues with our institution in this country, especially the judiciary. When the court want to sentence you, when the court want to convict you on a matter, there will be reasons, there will be authority to cite, there will be reasons to give. When the court also want to free you on that same matter, the court will also adduce reasons. The court will also cite laws, cite all sorts of authorities. And the question is, the same authority, are we now saying that those two judges are the tribunal and the chairman of the tribunal, where did those two judges too get their own authority from? The same constitution of Nigeria, the same electoral act. So the same electoral act, that's what we are saying. When the court want to also turn things upside down, there will be okay. In 2009, in 2010, for instance, 10 local governments in Osun, election in 10 local governments in Osun were nullified for Governor Aregbesola to be declared winner. 10 out of 20 local governments. It means that in 2010, Governor Aregbesola became governor of Osun based on result of 20 out of 30 local governments. It means that 10 local government, people from 10 local government were disenfranchised. They did not participate in making Aregbesola governor in 2010. The same thing in Ekiti. Result of some wards, about 4 wards in the rerun election, were nullified to make Fayemi governor. So if it happened then, what are I talking about now?
Also respond to the same question.
Yes. Because I was right there present at the tribunal, and I went through the rulings being read from 10:30 a.m. We finished there about 4:30. You know, so I'm quite immersed in it. Now, the first point I'll point out to our viewers who were not there in court is that the dissenting judgment delivered by Honorable Justice Sirajo principally he emphasized that during this reading, that the judgment of the majority, he participated substantially, that he had substantial input in what the majority judgment delivered. And he went on to say he only disagreed on just 2 points. 2 points. One, what is substantial? For you to say this is substantial enough. I mean, you've established some irregularity, and so is it substantial enough? And the second point is the fact that, okay, even if you establish that it is substantial and you go ahead and nullify the votes, then you should not declare, you should not make a declarative judgment. You should order a rerun. And he cited Section 140, subsection 2, you know, to buttress his position. And I was in shock because Section 140, subsection 2 had been struck down by a judgment, Honorable Justice Kolaole, in 2011. Since 2011, that section in our Constitution does not exist anymore. Section 140, subsection 2 no longer exists. So you base primarily your dissenting judgment on a section of the Constitution that has been struck down and not appealed. 2011, this is 2019, 8 years. If anyone had disagreed with that position of the law, because what did that section say? That section actually ties the hands of the tribunal to say you guys can consider every other thing, but you cannot decide who the winner is.
Yes.
So what is the essence of a dispute? You go to court because you have a dispute, and the dispute is basically resolved by deciding who's right and who's wrong. Where's the justice? You know, so it was repugnant to natural justice, equity, fairness, and it was struck down, rightly so. And so the dissenting judgment really has no basis in law, and I think it was just a consolation judgment to appease some people.
So I want to ask both of you this, but I'll start with you first. When you look at the case and you look at the evidence and the final decision of the tribunal, what do you think was the biggest game changer? What tipped the point in your favor?
The boldness of the majority judges, the boldness that they exhibited in openly castigating, actually the three of them castigated INEC because we were able to establish beyond reasonable doubt that there were doctoring of figures. And I mean, there's no way you could explain the disparity between the certified true copy of the Form EC8A obtained from INEC and the original, counterpart copy, the pink copy that was issued to agents at the date of election. So it was clear, and INEC put up zero explanation, zero defense. They did not call one single witness. When I was tendering the 484 pieces of evidence that I tendered and all the result sheets that indicated and supported our allegations of results being doctored and all that, they didn't cross-examine me around that. So principally that was critical for us. They established that the INEC was completely unprofessional. The second point was the fact that they understood the rights, the constitutional rights that a returning officer has, the powers. A returning officer cannot sit down at the center and cancel results of polling units. The procedures are clear. When a result is to be canceled or a result does not hold, the result, the presiding officer is the one that writes a report that in my polling unit, you see, elections are conducted in a way that every single polling unit must be accounted for. So you either account for the polling unit's result, the polling unit, by tendering a result of elections conducted, or you submit a report to say that, oh, my election was interrupted for whatever irregularity, violence, or whatever, or election did not hold. You must tender a report. That report is given to the ward collation officer. The ward collation officer, reading that report, must sign the Form EC40G that now confirms that election did not hold in this particular unit or election was cancelled in that particular unit. It is that EC40G that is now taken from the ward collation center to the state collation center, taken to the local government and then to the state collation center. At the local government, the local government collation officer fills the EC40G1 and then takes it to the state collation center. At the state collation center, it is only on that basis that the returning officer can say, oh, I have a report here that says that elections was interrupted or elections did not hold, and so therefore we will not record votes for these units. But Professor Fuakwe conjured powers from above and said to everybody, results have been cancelled in 7 units, no report, nothing indicating whatsoever the reasons therein. And then the next day or 2 days after, INEC issues a press release to say, yes, these are the 7 units, the results were cancelled, and these were the reasons. And then, interestingly, we now get to the tribunal, and the dissenting judge says that the petitioner did not establish its case in proving that elections were cancelled. Now, INEC, the umpire that conducted the election, issued a press statement. INEC, in its reply to the petition, admitted that the returning officer cancelled and the returning officer had powers to cancel, which is not true. Yetola's counsel, the team, also replied and said that the results were cancelled by the returning officer and the returning officer had powers to do so. And then now there is a ruling proving them wrong, and then they're jumping everywhere, shouting, oh, the result was not cancelled. The election actually never held. It's funny. It's funny. The jokers that these guys have turned themselves into in their desperate attempt to hold on to power. It is deplorable. It's deplorable. It's deplorable. And we must really commend the two justices, Honorable Justice Balagote and Honorable Justice Obiora, for standing for the truth and standing for the people. Because it's clear, Osun's case is clear, open robbery, daylight robbery. Daylight, EU observers, the US ambassador, the UK ambassador, all issued statements immediately thereafter. They rerun and said, hey, these were mad by election observers were even arrested. They were detained. TV stations crew were attacked, cameras damaged. I mean, it was blatant. What they did in Osun is complete in your face. Go and do your worst. And Professor Fuakwe was there to even drive home the point. Go to the next level. Let's move on. You know the next level. Move on to the next level. Why should we go to a tribunal to correct arithmetic errors that you can correct here, sir? I kept asking, and the guy wouldn't listen. And they were expecting that I would probably throw up an Urubabe and want to disrupt. So we're refined people. Osun people are very refined. We don't have time to be creating unnecessary sins. But we're happy. The judiciary has stood up for the masses. We're excited. There was spontaneous celebration across the state. Every corner of the state, people trooped out, to celebrate this ruling. And we're confident that we would move on to the appeal and move on to the Supreme Court, and we would get justice.
Larry, are you there? Okay, there you are. I think we were asking both of you the same question, which is, what do you think tipped the tribunal? But I think that DELE has really gone into the details. As someone that wasn't there and wasn't part of the proceedings, but that was observing it, what do you think were some of the things that tipped the scale when it came to justice this time? And what do you think people can expect in similar cases?
Let me answer let me also say one or two things about your first question concerning the judges, the tribunal judges. Like Mr. DELE ADELEKE said, I want to personally commend the judges, those two judges, because in this country today, the judiciary is under a kind of siege. It will take the boldness of a lion for any judge in this country to rule against this present government. And the arrangement has been there. It is like somebody that is going to steal, that is going to rob a bank, that has already made arrangements that already arranged with the police. Oh, if I'm arrested, this is what you should do. And has already made arrangement with judges too. If I'm taken to your court, this is what you should do. And that is why, even before election, they have made up their mind, we are going to manipulate this election, and we are going to also have judges that will be willing to do our bidding as members of the tribunal. And that is why, and that's one of the reasons CJN Onoge is facing what is facing today, because of what they intended to do on the general election that was just concluded, and the cases that will follow. And that's why, for those two judges to be so bold enough to be able to say the truth and also tell INEC that you ought not to have manipulated results. You ought not to have altered results cheats. Because in Ekiti State, I keep referring to this, INEC official came to the tribunal to admit that so quote and unquote, they said they made honest mistake. They alter from E68A. The form E68A in the original in INEC custody, the figure there in most of the polling units are different from the figure on the pink copies that the PDP tendered at the tribunal. And the tribunal in Ekiti said, oh, even after INEC official came to the tribunal to say, oh, we made mistake, we made honest mistake, and that official was asked, when you were making this alteration, was it countersigned? It was not signed, and it was not signed by any agent. Still, the tribunal in Ekiti still claimed that the election rigging and manipulation was not proved beyond reasonable doubt. No problem. We are at the level of the Supreme Court now. But in Osun State, these two judges were bold enough to say, this thing that you did was criminal. You should not have altered INEC resource sheet without the consent of agents and security officers at the polling unit. Because what is happening in this country is election being rigged at the level at the collation centers. What collation centers, local government collation, and they now say, okay, they want to just do what is called working to answer. This party has 20 votes here. We want to return 10,000 votes in this local government. And they begin to now look at polling units where they can add figures. That was what they did in Ekiti. That was what they did in Osun. The one of Osun has boomeranged. The one of and courtesy of those two courageous judges, that somebody like myself will continue to commend. We only hope that the judges of the appeal court will also be so courageous. The justices at the Supreme Court will also be so courageous to uphold this majority judgment of Osun. Because if it is not done, we are destroying democracy in this country gradually under this government. And like I said, judiciary has been placed under siege, such that even cases that are not that are not on election, the moment this government take any case to court, even cases by EFCC, the moment they take you to court, they expect the judge to just send you to jail just like that without proving anything. I have experienced 1 or 2 or 3 cases like that. So we as PDP and myself, I will keep commending those two judges. And I want to also urge the judiciary to stand for Nigeria. Because cases that are arising from the general election, in 2015, we didn't have much people challenging the result of the election, because the election was seen to be at least a bit free and fair, not like the one that just ended. So
raise an issue with you, Lere, because you just referred to the conduct of INEC with the manipulation, if we want to call it that, of the Form EC-8A as criminal, whereas DELE here referred to it as unprofessional. What do you think should be a real deterrent where INEC is concerned at this point? You cited the Ekiti example where INEC said they made an honest mistake. In the Osun Tribunal, INEC did not offer any form of defense for their manipulation or forgery, let's call it what it is, a forgery of documents. What is your assessment of the general role of INEC and how to curtail these irregularities that we're seeing from INEC?
By now, I believe that those INEC officials should be in court facing criminal charges. By now, by now, that man, that Mutiu Kolawole that was arrested for mutilating Ayedade local government result sheet should be, where is he now? Is he being tried? His boss, Mr. Aderioye, that he mentioned, gave him instruction to remove that result and destroy it. Where is the woman now? Has she been tried? No. In this country, people commit heinous crime and they are left alone to just move around. The issue is this: on election day, INEC officials in polling unit don't have right to alter results already entered into Form EC-8A. If you are going to alter those results, you must do so in agreement with polling agents. And those polling agents must also sign the alterations. The moment you have those, and the alteration must also appear on the duplicate copies. The duplicate copies are the ones that are called pink copies. If you alter the original, the alteration must appear on the duplicate copy. And on the issue of Ekiti, the alteration did not appear on duplicate copies. On the issue of Osun, alteration did not appear on duplicate copies. How do you make correction on the original and that correction will not appear on the duplicate? It means that the correction was made after the duplicate copy had been given to the agents and security agents. It also means that the alteration were probably done in INEC office. It was the demonstrations were done in INEC office, and that is why I'm saying, for us to also get out of this kind of situation, we should have a system that will allow for results to be transmitted directly from polling unit to the collation centers. We should eliminate this ward and local government collation centers. We should be transmitting the result directly from because what we now have is election being manipulated at the level of ward and local government collation centers. And that is why we must begin to have a system whereby election result will just go from polling unit to the final collation point. And those who were involved in the manipulation of result in Osun and Ekiti and other states should be tried. We should, and it's not just Nigeria should know that they are being tried. Nigeria should also be able to monitor their trial, so that it will serve a deterrent to others.
We actually have to go, but I do want to ask you one quick question, if you don't mind, just making it very short, Dele. What chance do you think APC has on appeal? That could be your answer.
Zero.
Okay.
Zero.
That seems to be your answer.
They have no basis in law to appeal. The only reason they're appealing is basically to continue their deception, deceiving their people that they have a point. They want to perpetuate themselves in power, see how they can stay longer and continue to pillage the state, and which had been the characteristics of APC in the last 8 years.
Thank you so much. Dele, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Lere
Olayinka, thank you. It's time now for a short break. When we return, Arise News analyst and producer Charles Ohuaku will be joining us for a review of top newspaper headlines from across the country. Stay with us.